President Biden's address comes on his 99th day in office, and the stakes are high, as we were just discussing, as he hopes to pitch more of his agenda to the American people. MSNBC anchor Joshua Jackson joins us now. Joshua, good morning. Now, much of the president's focus has, of course, been on the pandemic, both getting people vaccinated and tackling the economic fallout. Now, we know he's reached a lot of the goals his administration has set for themselves. So what does he have to do tonight to continue to make progress here?
He's going to have to prove that he can actually govern across the aisle and also govern without the benefit of measures like budget reconciliation. Remember, the COVID relief package was passed kind of at gunpoint with this legislative maneuver that allows the Democrats to work around the possibility of a filibuster. But he can't govern that way long term. And there's a legitimate argument as to whether or not the president is able to fund the other items on his agenda, including with some of the tax increases that he is expected to propose tonight. So in a way, this might be sort of the beginning of the Biden presidency as usual, and kind of the first time we will have seen Congress do regular Congress stuff ever since his administration began. We started with this attack on the Capitol and everything that issued from that. So this may be the beginning of setting the tone for Washington as usual under President Biden.
Absolutely. And Joshua Johnson, by the way, sorry, we said Jackson a second ago. Biden really pushed the idea of being the person who could bring the country together. Now, we were just discussing this with Shannon. So as well as this GOP response, we're expecting one from within his own party. So what kind of challenge does this present that this is kind of the state of affairs for him right now?
It feels risky on two fronts. One is that the president knows that there is a significant faction within the Democratic Party that wants the party to pull further to the left. There are plenty of Democrats who are very vocal about saying that the party's overall agenda is not ambitious enough on things like racial justice or especially climate change. So that's something I think the president actually does need to listen to. However, I think there's also a risk for Democrats because they have to remember most Americans are neither Democrats nor Republicans. The plurality, according to Gallup's latest poll, are independents. As of their latest poll, we're 25% Republican, 32% Democrat, and 41% independent. So if the party ignores that the plurality, at times the majority, of the electorate is not on the left or the right, but it's solidly in the middle and chooses who it likes, they might lose the opportunity to move anything forward by forcing people in the middle to pull to the left. It feels risky on both fronts.
That's a really good point. And Joshua is delivering this speech in a room that not long ago was the scene of an insurrection against his presidency. We saw this terrible thing play out in this very room. How does that play into tonight?
I think it gives him a chance, an obligation really, to set a tone for the country. And that's what Joe Biden is best at, is projecting empathy, is just looking into the camera and looking at you rather than looking at Congress. He's got an opportunity to sort of be the grown-up in the room, to calm things down, to set a tone, to say, here is how we're going to move forward. I think the country kind of needs that right now. He also knows that he's dealing with a Washington that has become increasingly politically poisonous. It was his Democratic predecessor, Barack Obama, who, during his first joint address to Congress in 2009, was laying out his health care agenda. And when he said that his health care plan was not going to cover undocumented immigrants, that was the moment that South Carolina Republican Congressman Joe Wilson yelled, "You lie," from the back of the room. Remember that? Nancy Pelosi shot daggers at him. Everybody started booing. And Joe Biden was sitting behind Barack Obama, looked down, shook his head. So he knows what he's walking into, and he's got to set a tone, not just for the country, but for the chamber as well.
And Joshua, also one other thing, just when we get back to talking about his agenda and what he wants to do going forward, we know that he's laid out these three plans, these two different types of these infrastructure plans, as well as the COVID relief package, all three with huge price tags. Now, we know that there's a lot of back and forth going on within Congress about how that's going to be paid for, what Republicans will agree to. But what does his message need to be to the American people on that front?
I think his message needs to be a few things. One is, I think, clarifying what he means by infrastructure. I think there's a legitimate argument as to what we need to do right now and what we can do later. Everyone agrees that infrastructure is roads, tunnels, bridges, airports, seaports. That obviously makes sense. there's a case to be made for things like universal preschool or tuition-free community colleges, especially with the changing economy. But do you call it infrastructure? Terminology matters. And I think he's got to explain what we mean and why we need to do all of these things now, as opposed to whether we can do them in pieces. And especially after this expensive COVID relief package, as much as the American people like it, at a certain point, you got to be able to explain how you pay for it. So this is the place, Savannah, again, where I feel like we have a chance to really begin to start like, okay, the crisis is over. We're dealing with the insurrection on January 6th. Now let's begin my administration. This could be the moment where he actually starts being a normal, everyday, Monday to Friday president like we're used to.
Normal. Joshua Johnson,
whatever counts.
Yeah, exactly. An early member of our NBC News Now family. It's good to have you back here. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.